The media and many in the Congress were either ignoring or making excuses for the riots we saw for months in this country. We came out on the air almost every night and told you we oppose political violence of all kinds. On January 6th, there was political violence at the Capitol, and we opposed that. But one thing that we oppose every bit as much is the destruction of the civil liberties that make this America, make it a country you would want to live in. Now, that point used to be uncontroversial, particularly on the left. But now, outside a handful of principled, mostly far-left figures, none of the self-described liberals in the Congress will say this out loud. Instead, they're moving in the other direction at high speed. Democrats are rushing to embrace a new surveillance state in the wake of the January 6th insurrection, using that day as a pretext for creating, say, a new secret police force. Not making that up. We told you about this last night, and we mentioned specifically a member of Congress from Illinois, a character called Brad Schneider. Schneider says he'd like to pass something called the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act. Apparently, Brad Schneider was watching last night. As you hear his reply, ask yourself, is this the guy you want in charge of preventing domestic terrorism? Here's how he responded, quote, "Do I want to see increased monitoring of the types of violent extremist domestic terrorists that attacked the Capitol, leaving 5 people dead, including a police officer? Absolutely. The real question is why Tucker Carlson is okay with their deaths." Right. So if you have questions about handing Brad Schneider, whoever that guy is, the keys to your country, voiding the Bill of Rights because Brad Schneider demands that you do after the insurrection on January 6th, then you're for killing police officers. You want people to die. And maybe you need your civil liberties taken away. We'll see. Now, if this all sounds familiar, it is. Because every time something horrible happens, creepy little demagogues like Brad Schneider rush to the microphone and tell you, I'm sorry, you can't be free anymore. It happened after 9/11. 9/11? What does it have to do with January 6th? It seems like kind of an odd comparison. In fact, so disproportionate, it's laughable and offensive to the 3,000 people who died on 9/11. But members of Congress were invoking anyway, by the way, from both parties. In the same briefing where Brad Schneider gave his stupid and scary opinions, another member of Congress, a former FBI agent called Brian Fitzpatrick, said we must adopt the same attitude toward domestic terrorism that we had toward Al-Qaeda after 9/11.
When you look at what our response was to 9/11, we said never again. We created a brand new department, a secretary-level position in the cabinet, and an entire new department, the Department of Homeland Security. We took a lot of steps to make sure that we were going to say never again were we going to experience something like 9/11. We need to have that same never again attitude towards domestic terrorism because both are an equal threat.
What? Who is this guy? Why is he in Congress? We think he's a Republican, by the way. Who cares? That's insulting. What happened on January 6th was on videotape. You saw it. It was bad. We denounced it. We'll denounce it again and every day because who cares? We feel that way. But to compare that to 9/11, if you're saying that with a straight face, you're a liar and you have an agenda that should make all of us nervous. But a lot of them do. Another congressman, Luke Correa, admitted that the, quote, Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act is just the beginning. There's a lot more domestic spying to be done, he promised.
This is the first step in a long procession of actions we have to take to make sure we address the issue of other Americans terrorizing other Americans in this great country.
Yeah, okay. The next step in a long procession of actions. Okay, let's just be completely clear. Unlike many of the people you see calling for a new secret police force to be created, we're against all political violence. But no matter how much of it occurs, we are still Americans. We were born here. We have the right to say whatever we believe. Period. You cannot abridge that right. We have the right not to be spied on by our own government for having political opinions that people in power disagree with. Period. And anyone who tries to take those rights away is a far greater threat to this country than anyone who showed up on the Capitol on January 6th. Period. And everybody should say that because it's true. And it would be true if the roles were reversed and the other party was in power. It doesn't matter. These are immutable, undying principles that form the basis of American history and culture and life. And when they cease to be at the center of our national life, you ought to leave.